What's up, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Variant the Podcast. Before we get into all the cool topics we have today, want to let you guys know where this is going to be available. Obviously, first and foremost, it's going to be available here on the main Variant channel, but only for the first several episodes. Then after that, we've created a second YouTube channel, which is Variant the Podcast. So it's only going to be here for a little while so you guys get familiar with it, and then we're going to be taking it off here and solely, well, not solely living, but video format solely living on Variant the Podcast. And then the audio versions, we're gonna have all the fun stuff like iTunes.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll live primarily on its own channel. The show, it'll, on the video, Variant the Podcast will have its own channel. That's where it'll live. The video, those of you that want to watch the video version, and then for the audio, if you're just looking to listen to it on the go, we have it on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher, and soon. It'll be up on SoundCloud as well. So
I think that covers all the bases. Yeah. It's going to cover,
So for the first next month or so, until at least we feel confident that most of you have had a chance to find the permanent home of Variant the Podcast, at least the video version, and get over there, subscribe, hit the bell so you're always notified when a new episode goes live. Once we feel good about that, maybe a month, maybe a month and a half, something like that. And then it'll drop off of the main Variant channel and it'll just live on its own channel, Variant the Podcast.
Yeah, so I know there's going to be probably a handful of people be like, where did it go? Where did it go? So we might have to bring this up again in the future.
And if there's any confusion too, we will have the channel on the featured channels on the main Variant channel at all times. So if there's any confusion, it'll always be there, and as a friendly reminder.
But links for all that is going to be in the description as always, so you could subscribe to your favorite platform on where you listen to all your podcasts.
Always.
And all that fun stuff. But with that out of the way, let's dive into
let's jump into the meat.
To the meat. First and foremost, let's start with comic books because we
didn't even touch on. I don't think any comics last week. In our first episode,
not really. There wasn't really, because unfortunately there wasn't really much to talk about.
Yeah, I think we had a couple lined up, but we got pretty wordy on a few. On Joker and some of the other things. So we'll.
But we're making up for it this week. Yeah. We got four bits of comic book news to talk about, which I think is really, really fun. First of which, everyone knows I'm a massive Batman fan, right? So this next thing I'm going to mention made me very, very excited to see where this is going. So apparently, well, not apparently, it did happen. In Detective Comics, Mr. Freeze brought Nora, his wife, back to life. Now, if you know anything about Mr. Freeze, the whole purpose of him being Mr. Freeze is to figure out a way.
It's all about his wife.
Yeah, to bring his wife back to life. So he's one of those villains, which is awesome because he's a villain, but he really just wants his wife back. Now, obviously, he's not going about it the right way, but you could feel very sympathetic for him because he just wants his wife back. He doesn't really want money, fame, to rule the world. He just wants his wife. And he finally got that after all these years. Writer Peter Tomasi did that, and it's very, very interesting to see. It just happened in the most current issue, but it was really great to see how we got there because I just said he's not really like an evil villain, but he kind of is. This kind of showed it because the way he got there, he did some messed up stuff. So spoilers, I'm going to spoil a little bit, but I kind of have to just to drive this point home. In order to find a cure for his wife, he was kidnapping women and experimenting on them, most of which or all of which, I suppose, did not make it just so he could bring his wife back.
I would successfully call that evil. That's not the best.
No.
You're a serial killer, right?
But it's fascinating to me because ever since he was given this origin in Batman the Animated Series, that's where this origin came from with Nora and all that stuff. He's never been successful. And now that it's happened, now that he has his wife back, what's gonna happen? Is he done? Is he gonna try to go, it's like, oh, I'm done with all this crime and stuff or is it, where's it gonna go? What is she gonna think?
I think what makes it the most interesting is that it's like any great villain, kind of like Thanos, right? In the most recent Avengers films, where they gave him that extra dimension where he had this element of like, I'm trying to help.
Yes.
Right? He lays out this whole idea, this grand idea that, that I was like, no, that doesn't make him a good guy. And you had a lot of people going, well, does that make him right? No, it doesn't. He's still killing and that's still genocide.
He's like, I'm making the decision that you won't.
You don't get to decide who lives, who dies. You're not God. So
but it's a fascinating.
It's a fascinating, but it adds that extra level of depth to the villain. And so the same thing with Mr. Freeze, where he had that extra level where you were able to sympathize. Like, what if you lost the person you loved most? Would you be willing to do anything to get them back if you thought it was possible?
Right.
And so it adds that extra level. So now to see them create, to bring her to life and to kind of take that motivation away. So if he stays a villain now,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? Now he really exposes himself as a character as no, really the core of everything he did was just because he had a dark heart.
100%. I think it's gonna be very telling to see what his true intents were going forward, and especially like what she's gonna think once he explains and all the stuff going forward, like what's happened to her and why she's back. Like again, what is she gonna think and all the stuff he did to bring her back? Like, if your wife passed and you bring her back, but you told her you killed like hundreds of thousands of people or thousands of people to bring her back, is she gonna be okay with that?
It might put a slight damper on the mood. Because it's true. And the other thing, a question they'll be able to play with is, was it because he was evil from the get, or did everything that he did to get her back, did that just turn him, basically destroy him as, his soul, essentially, for lack of a better way of saying it.
That's
a lot of fun stuff to play with.
Peter Tomasi is doing some really cool stuff. And again, he's one of the first, definitely in like main Batman continuity, to do this, and I'm just very excited to. Mr. Freeze is one of my favorite villains, especially. He's a good one. I love Batman the Animated Series, and that's where this whole Nora origin came from. So I'm very excited to see where they go with this from here.
I feel like there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on in comics right now, where they're playing with a lot of very broad themes.
Yes.
With old storylines that have been going on for a long time, and they're kind of resurrecting them to tell these broader.
Isn't everyone doing that right now? I feel like
all
storytelling.
Yeah, it feels like that's kind of a big thing right now. I don't know. Kind of want to say DC is really the one who kind of kicked it off, at least the more recent.
Yes, especially I guess you can kind of even go back to like DC Rebirth and stuff like that. We're bringing back, going back to like we need to go back to ways of old. We kind of lost sight of why people love these characters. So let's kind of go back.
So they're digging into the old toolbox.
Yeah.
And they're pulling out things like, like Mr. Freeze and, him trying to bring this way.
I'm loving it.
Yeah, it's fun. It definitely is creating some awesome story elements.
For sure. The next bit of comic book news we have is also in the Batman world. And this is a character that I love very, very much. Also, created from Batman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond. So Batman Beyond, recently Terry McGinnis has gone missing. And in the wake of him going missing, we have a new Batman Beyond as of issue 37. A mysterious female apparently is wearing a Batman Beyond costume.
Mystery.
Yeah, and she is the new Batman Beyond for now. Now, as of shooting this podcast, it's only been one issue, and she was only like in the last half of the issue. So we don't know much about her at all. Like really nothing. We just know that now, for the time being, we are going to have a female Batman Beyond. We don't know how that's going to link to Terry McGinnis or who she is, but it's interesting.
Did you read it?
Yes.
You have. Okay, I haven't read it.
Okay.
So how does she emerge?
Basically, she just kind of shows up. You see you basically first see her saving someone, throwing a batarang, and then she just shows up beating thugs and stuff like that.
But in the Beyond suit.
Yeah, but in the Beyond suit. Yeah. You just see, you think it's like Terry McGinnis at first, but then you realize, oh, female body, hair. Nope, not Terry McGinnis. Guys don't have shapes like that. But I mean, it's very. I'm curious because a lot of people get mad about this stuff. I say it all the time when characters die, when they make this character, Thor, or that character, Batman or whatever. People, get up in arms.
Right.
But it's like being a longtime comic book fan. One thing. All those legacy characters and stuff are never going to permanently go away.
No.
So if anyone's getting upset that Terry McGinnis is gone, or like, how are you replacing Terry McGinnis with this new, with a Batman Beyond girl or whatever? It's only a matter of time before he comes back. Like this is it'll last a year, if that, maybe two.
We say that on the regular on the show. You say it on the regular on the show. We talk about it off camera
because
all
you
the time.
don't know how many
years.
people tweet to me. They're like, Arris, what do you think? What do you think? And it's and like obviously I don't mind it at all, but it's like my response is always the same. It's like, I don't know, give it a month and then Terry McGinnis is back or whoever it is. But it almost feels like it doesn't have an impact anymore because I know, same with killing off characters, because they're going to be back. You're not going to keep Steve Rogers dead permanently. Yeah. You just can't do. From a business standpoint, Marvel could not do that.
And I mean, you get it because people feel passionate about these characters and their stories and things like that. But, some of the outrage, when, writers start to play with different characters and experiment with different storylines, it does get a little bit much because you do have to remind people like, guys, this is just one story. this character's been around for 60 years, you know.
Right.
He's going to be back. They're going to reboot it. They're going to change it. They're going to bring him, you know, restore him in some way. And that's proven to be true over and over again with every major character.
Yep.
I don't care what, you know, universe you're talking about.
They're legacy characters. You can't get rid of what made the company what they are.
Right.
And to be fair, like, I'm not saying that, like, you know, like, that stuff doesn't annoy or bother me at all. Like, I think everyone would agree as a whole that Marvel now probably wasn't the best of things, was when they were literally changing every character all at once. And it's just like, well, now I just want, you know, I want my Steve Rogers, I want my Tony Stark, and you didn't have it.
And I think I feel like
I totally
kind of
that.
they're a little bit two different, you know, points in a way, because one is like, hey, I didn't like that storyline.
Yes.
Right. And then the other one is getting upset because, you know, a character gets killed off, or, you know, they did something with a character you didn't like and you treat it as if it's permanent.
Right.
It's kind of like two different, you know, issues. So it's like, yeah, if you don't like a story, you can say, hey, I didn't like this. This is why I didn't like it. I felt like it went against the character in that way. But with the understanding of, we're going to get another story and it's going to be, you know, go back to the way it was, or something similar.
But what's crazy about this issue in particular is it's actually a very sought after comic right now. It's been sold out to comic book shops.
Really?
Yeah, because in the specular market, in the collecting market, everyone's like, oh, new character, got to buy it. Right? Because you don't know if, you know, this character
could turn into a
people love her. Like, we don't know what if it's like Barbara Gordon or something, some way, somehow. And they're like, oh my God, now I need the first appearance.
Yeah.
So it's I believe it's a $3 book. I don't think it's $3.99. I think it's $2.99. And it's currently going for like $15 to $20.
Dude, it makes sense. The way they're turning everything's getting optioned. Everything is getting picked up now. And we're about to move into this golden age of content.
Oh, for sure.
People think that content is a lot now. Like, we have a lot of content now.
It's hard to choose.
With this time period that we're moving in with the streaming wars between Apple and Disney and, you know, Hulu,
Disney's
which is also
everything.
Disney.
Yeah,
but you know, between, you know, Apple, HBO, Disney, Warner Brothers is coming into the picture next year.
So much.
You've got these Amazon, let's not forget Amazon, of course, Netflix. You've got these huge big dollar players, and they're going to war now. Like, in this next year, like, it's going to be all out battle
100%.
Between these major streaming platforms to see who can come up with the best stuff. So they're just freaking optioning everything.
But Disney has such a leg up.
They do.
But that's because they own like every IP.
They like kicked the door in and just was like, we're here. Yeah, they're
like
definitely
Pixar, Disney Classics, Star Wars,
but
Marvel,
they were so
we
smart too, right? Because they built up their IPs before they got into the streaming game.
Yes.
So they already went like, okay, we've got Lucasfilm, we've got our own properties, which are out the yang, Pixar and all these other things. But then they picked up Lucasfilm, Marvel, and they just gathered, and then they bought Hulu and all these other things.
And they have ESPN, not Geo.
Yeah,
like
they had
just got
ESPN for the longest time. So now now that you've got Warner Brothers coming into the space, you got NBC creating their own with Universal next year. But already we've had Netflix for a while. Netflix is actually the one scrambling the most, which is the craziest.
Because they were the big dog.
Yeah,
for so
they
long.
were the king on the
but
mountain.
It's because Disney's like, yeah, you know how we let you have like, you know, Star Wars, basically licensed all their properties.
Yeah, you know how you built your platform on our back?
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Contracts are up. All out. It's all ours now.
And Netflix is going to be okay.
Yeah, I
mean,
know,
because again, just going back to the main point, which is that now they're digging deep into all these stories and characters throughout comics, even like classic literature, old folklore. They're really digging in,
like their own, like kind of like their own little market. But they have a lot of great content. I think I was telling you the other day where I was like, I would never cancel Netflix either way because there's still a bunch of shows that I love. They got Stranger Things, obviously, but then they have a lot of good like original like anime type stuff on there too. I've been watching Castlevania. Oh my god, I love that show. So I gotta talk about that.
He does.
I'm not gonna rant now, but we gotta talk about like use that as a segment for the podcast because Castlevania is the jam. But they got a lot of shows like that, so I think they'll be fine.
They will totally.
They
be
just
fine.
need to
and they're spending a crap ton of money. Right now,
didn't you? They take out like
I was just we were
$2 billion,
another $3 billion
in
debt to add more content to their platform. Because again, they know what Disney's about to do. They know HBO is expanding with HBO Max. They know Warner Brothers coming into the space. You know, it's just on and on and on. They know what Amazon's about to do with freaking Lord of the Rings and some of these other, you know, things that they're getting ready to launch. So yeah, they're going to be totally fine. Look at the 300s actually, you know, feeding into some of the other stuff we're going to talk about. But this this big deal they just made with DB Weiss and David Benioff.
Benioff, yes.
You know, so it's like they're gonna be fine.
Lots of stuff.
We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah. All to say that as of Batman Beyond issue 37, we have a new female Batman Beyond.
Took a little bit of a right turn.
But if you want to collect that in print, I would definitely say pick it up if you see it at a comic book shop, because it is spiking in price in the collector market.
And it's probably going to be on TV soon.
Yeah.
The way or a film.
Yeah, actually. I'm curious to see where they go with her, because I want to know who she is.
I wonder if they'll give her an animated.
I mean,
give her like a little bit of the animated treatment. That would be cool.
We'll see. I mean, if she hits kind of like a Spider-Gwen or something like that. Yeah. Lord only knows.
I think it's a cool spin-off of the character, just in general.
Yeah, especially since it's a futuristic.
Because it does have kind of a Spider-Gwen, Ghost Spider type vibe.
Especially depending on who they link her back to. Like, I'm very stuck, like, who is it going to be? Like, because I think that would be very telling of, you know, how we're going to be, like, attached to this character or not. Right. Because the big thing with Spider-Gwen was, it's Gwen Stacy. So everyone was like, Gwen Stacy as Spider-Woman? Heck yeah. So, like, imagine, like, Barbara Gordon somehow, like, as...
Or Barbara Gordon's child.
But probably more of that, because Barbara Gordon is way older in the Batman Beyond timeline. But yeah, something like that.
The love child of Bruce and Barbara?
Something. I don't know.
Or even Dick and Barbara?
Dan Jurgens is ready right now, so I don't know. He can spit it somehow.
You can go anywhere. You can go number. It's comics. You can do anything
you
want.
Do anything you want. But let's move on. Since it's some Marvel territory with Jonathan Hickman, as we know, he's doing the Lord's work, reshaping the X-Men universe. We got House of X and Powers of 10 that wrapped up, and now he's doing his he's going forward with his own X-Men books after that. And
you could say that.
And the big thing is, a lot of people in, I believe, one of the first, I forget exactly what issue, but I think it was House of X issue 1. Don't quote me on that. One of the early issues of House of X, he gave a definitive list on who the new Omega level mutants are. We actually did an episode on that if you want to check that out. We'll put a link for that here in the video version, so you can check that out.
And in the description.
But he gave a definitive list. And a lot of people since then have been like, well, is this person going to be an Omega mutant? How come you left this person out? How come that person? And I guess, I don't want to say he got annoyed. He didn't get annoyed, but he was just like, let me just say once and for all that this is the definitive list. Well, I have it pulled up here so I could just read you his quote exactly. So Hickman says as follows. The list of Omega level mutants is complete, and anyone who isn't on the list isn't one, and there won't be any new Omega level characters created for quite some time. Period. So he goes on to say there are way too many overcooked characters as of right now. It's probably the second worst thing we do after breaking things for dramatic and not story reasons. So he's basically saying...
That's pretty cut and dry. That's pretty definitive.
He's annoyed in a sense that there's too many overpowered characters in the X-Men universe, and that his list... That's the list, no more for quite some time. I pretty much took from that meaning there's going to be no more until he's off the X-Men.
Yeah. Well, I think you can kind of even pull that vibe from everything that he's doing. He is trying to streamline the X-Men universe, and he's trying to set things on a very definitive course.
Yes.
Saying, okay, this is canon, this isn't, this is done, and this is where things are headed.
Which with anything, that reshaping for like, you know, a mythology of characters has been kind of split. You know, you got a lot of people loving it and a lot of people like, this is crap. But again, that's not uncommon for anything of this scale, because he's literally redoing everything in the X-Men universe, which I'm personally a fan of. I love when writers can take, because he's been taking a lot of old stuff and finding a way to make it fit with all his new ideas. And I love that stuff. Scott Snyder did that with the Court of Owls, where he made them seem like they were always there, and even went back to old Batman books and symbols of owls and old Batman books. It was like, see, it's the Court of Owls. They're always there, when they really weren't. He just tied it to it. And Hickman's kind of doing stuff like that as far as the mythology and stuff. And I'm a fan, but you want to read the list of who the Omega level mutants are?
Yes, it is quite, it's actually not a short list.
No.
So it's not like he created like, okay, there's 4 Omega level mutants. It's actually a pretty decent list. You've got Monarch, Iceman, Elixir, Marvel Girl, Legion, which I don't think anybody's surprised.
Right.
Magneto, also no surprise. Proteus, Mr. M, Storm, Exodus, Kid Omega, Powerhouse, Vulcan, and Hope Summers.
Yeah. So, and I think for the most part, if you know anything about those characters, you'd be like, obviously.
The one glaring omission that probably everybody, this is the one you hear the most, of course, is Professor X. Charles Xavier. Why? How is he not on that list? That's a fair argument.
It is.
But he does explain it.
If you read the books,
he
even watch
does.
our episode, we tell you what his definitions and his kind of explanations for that is.
And that's what I mean when I say like he's creating like these very well-defined lanes, you know, that the stories and the characters are going to be traveling in. He's kind of reiterating some rules for the X-Men universe, and then he's creating new ones. And I think that's really what the list of Omega level mutants, this definitive list, is really about. It's him saying, you know, because there was a lot of ambiguity about that for a long time, right? So he's saying these are the rules of the game, these are the power players, and these are the ones that don't make the list, and here's why. Here's the definitions, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I really like the list, with the exception of, you know, Professor X being the biggest glaring one. But I do like that there's a definitive list. Like there's no question, because a lot of the times you're like, and to his point, a lot of fans even do get annoyed that there's way too many overpowered characters. How many times do we do like history of episodes or how powerful episodes? And you see in the comments section.
Anytime you do anything about Superman?
Yeah. Or just like other characters, Shazam or whatever, Martian Manhunter, so on and so forth. And you see a lot of comments who are like, oh, they're just so overpowered. So there is a good amount of fans out there that are going to agree with them, be like, yeah, we don't need, you know, like 50 Omega level mutants. Like this is enough. Yeah. And you pull them out as you need them.
And there's some people I saw that were like, well, this, you know, this creates like too many boundaries. Yes. You know what I mean? Where it makes it to where the characters aren't as flexible or the storylines aren't as flexible for the future. And I kind of see it as a trade-off. That there is some truth to that, but then on the other side, by making definitive rules, you're opening up possibilities that didn't exist previously.
For sure.
As somebody who writes, you know, and is a writer myself, like I'm used to rules, to setting rules in storylines. I prefer that. You know, there is definitely room for that. But so I kind of think that he's on a very solid track here.
Yeah, I'm a fan. So I'm curious to see where, you know, going forward. Because again, he said for a long time there's not going to be, but that doesn't mean we're never going to get, you know, another Omega level mutant. Because let's face it, even if he doesn't, he's not going to be on the book forever. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know, if sometime in the future the books, you know, the book sales start going south, they're going to bring somebody else on. They're going to do this all over again.
You're out, Hickman. Yeah. You're out.
He's like, I'm going to make Star Wars.
But the last bit of comic book news, or actual comic book news we have, is Spider-Man. Spider-Man Noir. Everyone knows him now because of the insanely popular Into the Spider-Verse movie, which we all love so much. But I guess due to that, his popularity in that movie, they're like, oh yeah, he was a comic book character first, which is why we put him in the movie. And since he's really popular now, how about we give him his own book again? So he's going to be getting a 5-issue limited series in February of 2020. That's going to be he's going to be resurrected, because as you know, you Spider-Man fans know, he's been dead. He's going to be resurrected by the Inheritors, who was a big part of Spider-Verse and all that Spider-Man mythos stuff. And he's going to be put back into the 30s from where he said, so that's going to be really, really cool, because that's the coolest part about Spider-Man Noir. Obviously, he's cool on his own in present, but putting him back in the 30s, making it a period piece again.
I think that's the coolest part of the character. So
yes, with the fedora, the Tommy gun. I mean, he's always had it, but putting him in his element again.
Because that for me is like, you know how big of a fan I am of the Shadow.
Yes.
So I love that era.
And like the Phantom and all
20s,
that stuff.
30s, 40s, man. I always joke that I was born in the wrong time. So yeah, I love that stuff. So, you know, that just sounds like crap ton of fun.
I'm very, very excited. It's going to pick up right after the events of Spider-Verse issue 5.
I wonder if that's in conjunction in any way with like kind of giving more food for the cinematic universe they want to build out. Oh, for
sure, because they want to do like all the spin-offs movies. We're already getting a Spider-Ham, apparently.
I just don't know if Marvel is working hand in hand with Sony, you know, Marvel Publishing I'm talking about, working hand in hand with Sony, you know, Entertainment in that way.
Very, very curious. I mean, we do know that it's actually something we forgot to talk about last week, and I guess would be a good segue now, is that Kevin Feige is now in charge of all things Marvel. So publishing, TV, obviously Marvel Studios.
It's a little bit like the chain of command is still slightly confusing.
It is, because a lot of the I think Joe Quesada is still technically
Joe Quesada's still there. Officer. You know, Ike Perlmutter is still staying on as president of. I said his name.
You said his name.
I said his name. Ooh, say it again. So he's staying on as president of Marvel Publishing, but he's kind of been pushed into
For those of you who don't know, Ike is a bit of a recluse, and he doesn't like to be talked about or seen very often. So that's why it's kind of a joke between the two of us and a lot of people, actually, that it's like
people don't talk much about Ike.
Yeah, he doesn't like to be in the spotlight.
Yeah.
So hopefully this.
But he's been at the helm at Marvel for
He has.
a good
but
while.
watch this podcast and get shut down because we said his name.
Can't shut us down.
Don't say that. Yes, he can. Yes, he can.
We love you, man. We love you, man. But yeah, no, the power structure there is still a little bit confusing. But from what we can tell, at bare minimum, what we do know is that Kevin Feige just took on a whole lot more control of Marvel Entertainment as a broad company.
And I don't. What are your feelings on it? Because me personally, I love Feige. Yeah. Obviously, no, whether you love the Marvel movies or not, I don't think from a pure business point or creative standpoint, you could argue that he's done some work. Like, if anything, the box office speaks tremendously. And that's purely just from like a technical aspect. As a fanboy, I love everything he's done all the way up, first Iron Man to Endgame. Fantastic.
I think that you could even go so far as to argue that he and maybe one or two other people are the biggest catalysts for the resurgence of comics in pop culture.
Yeah, I would not argue you on that.
Because the Marvel Cinematic Universe is one of the biggest proponents that launched this current golden age of geekdom.
For sure.
That we're in. Comic-Cons alone would not be what they are now if it wasn't for the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Isn't it weird to think that, like, obviously there's tons of people involved behind the scenes, tons.
Sure.
Like, it's not just Feige and his left and right hand man or whatever, but they definitely were leading the charge. No doubt. How weird is that? Like, being him to know. You think he thinks about that? Like, at all?
I'm sure that he's aware. He seems like a relatively humble guy, actually, who really does a really good job of sharing the spotlight. And
any guy who wears a superhero hat to a premiere,
I'm
an okay guy in my book.
We can hang out, man. We can hang out. As if Kevin Feige needs to hang out with me anyway. But yeah, no, he seems like a really down to earth, decent guy. And between what him and Jon Favreau collaborated to do with Iron Man and then go from there to what it is now and then see everything that came along with
for sure
that, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just this massive explosion of all things, geek and comics and all these different things. And I mean, Chris Nolan, his Batman series, contributed to that.
And obviously everyone's going to argue that I believe too, to a certain extent, that Blade is kind of was the first, because then you got the X-Men movies but it's the Marvel Cinematic Universe which really took it from
of course you always
it took it to like a 10.
You always have the grandfathers, right?
Yeah.
You always have the people that cracked the door and got things started. So you can argue Tim Burton in the original Batman with Michael Keaton and
Donner
Jack
with
Nicholson.
the Reeves movies,
the Christopher Reeves movies, all those are the ones that kind of showed that hey, we can transition these from the comic book pages onto the big screen, and people will go and put their dollars, at the box office.
You will believe a man can fly.
But it wasn't Marvel. The Marvel Cinematic Universe took that and just injected it with steroids.
100%. They took it to a 10. They put that nitrous in there.
So it makes total sense, for Disney to go, hey, we want you to be overseeing everything that's happening story-wise.
But
there is a caveat.
Right. Like at the beginning, before we went off on that little tangent there, again, all that to say that there's no question he's done the Lord's work, as Kevin Smith would say. But I don't know how I feel of him being in charge of the publishing, the TV, the video games, like literally everything Marvel related.
Yeah.
Because
we don't know that he's in charge of the stories over the publishing, because he's not the editor-in-chief. But from what we understand, the editor-in-chief is going to be reporting
to him. That's what I was going to say. So he's
at least through some kind of a chain.
He's very much steering the ship. So it's kind of like, he's definitely going to have an impact on the stories I'm telling now. Yeah. And is he going to want to go the route where everything synergy, like even the comics now are tying into the movies to a certain extent, or it's very much they've already been doing things on comics on purpose to influence the movies later on.
100%.
But it seems like now it could be, I'm not saying it's going to be, it could be more of that to the extent where it's like, oh, clearly this is just because they want to do this movie in like 2024.
Right.
And that could be annoying. That's going to be really, really, because some of the best Marvel movies or comic book movies in general are based off of stories that existed years, decades before we even would dream of getting these movies. So I don't know if doing a comic story because you know you're going to want to use this for a movie 3 years later
Yeah.
would be a right approach. I'm not saying that's what they're going to do, but I'm saying it could be, and I wouldn't be a fan of that.
I agree, because I think you're choking off creativity.
Yes.
Right. You're really you're narrowing the fun. You know, you're creating a funnel essentially to where everything has to pass through, and it's for the films
and even the TV shows.
Yeah, the TV shows and the films, everything they're doing with the streaming and how all that is synergistic and it all works together in continuity. I think that's an amazing idea. I think it's one of the coolest things anyone's done in terms of broad entertainment in modern times, for sure. So that's going to be, I think, a ton of fun. But now you're adding the publishing, and I think you might, if that's the case, and again, we don't know that that it's going to be. But if they do start moving that direction, then yeah, you're gonna start eliminating some good ideas.
For sure.
You're going to start taking some stuff off the table in terms of creative scope, and just even kind of what DC's doing with the Black Label stuff, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So where that's not in continuity with the broader storylines,
I think DC does that stuff. That's the one. Well, I love lots of things about DC, but one of my favorite things about DC is I think they do that Elseworld stuff so good.
They do.
Like they really, I mean, there's some of my, I say it all the time, but some of my favorite stories in comics is DC's Elseworlds type
they
stuff.
They take risks, I think, better than almost, well, at least between the big two.
Right.
They take risks.
You got Deceased, which is currently going on. That's out of continuity. That's really great. Obviously, Injustice, all the countless Elseworld stories, the new Black Label stuff, that's all out of continuity. So I think that is, I mean, it's just awesome because obviously I love the main like continuity stuff, but then it's always fun to be like, but what if Batman did kill? I would like to read that. That'd be really, really cool.
Yeah. Or how about the White Knight?
Yeah, White Knight,
right,
so
where
good.
Joker is the Batman.
It's so
I mean, that's the trying things, taking risks, and that's not to say Marvel doesn't do that. Marvel does it. It's just that especially with the movies, and I guess that's where the concern comes in, is because we do know that they have altered their storylines and characters, or brought characters in specifically because they were looking for it to impact the cinematic universe 5-10 years down the road, right? Like what we're seeing with Captain Marvel now, right? Captain Marvel was reintroduced in a very different way, became a major player into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and even was one of the leading figures in Civil War II.
Yep.
Because they knew in advance they wanted to bring her in as this leading figure in the Marvel Cinematic Universe after this initial arc was finished.
Right.
So knowing that they've already done that, now you take the head of the MCU and you make him kind of this, overlord over the entire show, then it kind of broadens that concern of like, are you going to start us to choke off creativity?
It makes it a little worrisome. So, I mean, I'm curious to see. I hope not. I mean, because again, I'm all about synergy as far as like TV in movies, because they kind of they're the same thing, just one's in a movie theater, one you could watch at home, right? It's live action, it's acting, it's television movies, right? That I feel like is better synergy than the comic books. I kind of like that the comic books are always allowed to do their own thing. Like I don't want them to have to abide to any rules or do certain things because it needs to line up with this.
Right.
Where the comic book, I love comic books so much because you could do anything in a comic book. You know what I mean? You don't there's no budget. Your imagination is the limit. So I don't want things to be held down or back because it's not going to line up with this in the future, or even just done here because they know they can't pull that off on the big screen, vice versa. So I don't know if that's what they're going to do. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt because I love me some Feige, but I will say I'm a little bit worried.
Yeah, I would be with you. It's not like, it's a moderate concern, I guess. Yeah, I mean, because the other thing too that people have to keep in mind is that he's also now hinting that he might want to get involved in Star Wars.
Yes. Well, is it a hint or is it? I feel like it's kind of confirmed.
Well, they haven't officially. So they haven't officially confirmed it, but Kathleen Kennedy is saying that she's had discussions with him, and he's saying he would love to. And usually when that happens,
that's what I'm saying.
It's like an indirect confirmation. It's like, yeah, we're going to do that.
Right.
But there's been no definitive, like he's going to produce this particular series or anything like that. But he's now also hinting that he's going to get into Star Wars. Like, how are you going to? What's
crazy, though, going back to comic books with that, is speaking of rumor, I feel like that's pretty. I mean, I guess it's not officially confirmed, but I feel like it is confirmed. You know what I mean? But the rumor mill is going around is that not only is he going to be doing a Star Wars movie, is he's going to be doing a Dr. Aphra Star Wars movie. and that is one of the newer characters to hit the Marvel Comics books.
I didn't see
So
that.
that's who he's gonna be going after. That's the rumor. But if so, that could be really, really cool because everyone loves her.
Yeah,
She's a fan favorite character.
That wouldn't surprise me. She has been popular, and that's purely Marvel Comics up into this point.
So that's what synergy.
Well, you knew, like, because
Right.
you see what Marvel's doing with the Star Wars comics. They're branching out and they're expanding on all these characters that you're already seeing in the films.
A perfect example of what could be happening for the Marvel superhero universe, because you see a ton of, like, Kylo Ren's got his own book, Poe Dameron's got his own book, Rey, they all got their own books. So we're going to be seeing that a lot for the MCU.
That's again, it goes back to that. This is why there's concern,
right?
Is because you're seeing that happen, and
that's why I said I'm a little bit worried.
Yeah,
a little bit worried.
Yeah, I don't know, but you've got him. If he goes over and he's doing Star Wars, and I guess what I'm saying is I don't want there to be too few voices, too few creative minds behind platforms that are so loved by so many fans. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to Star Wars, universe is as big as Star Wars or the Marvel universe. There needs to be some room for different ideas so that you can hash out, especially Star Wars. I think there's so much untapped potential, especially once Disney took a lot of the expanded universe of Star Wars and made it Legends. Yep. There's so much room there, and that kind of transitions us, that kind of brings us to one of the points we were going to bring up too, with now D.B. Weiss and David Benioff falling off their trilogy, which was rumored to be potentially an Old Republic trilogy, which I think we talked about it briefly on the first show. I read that and I'm heartbroken.
Because Game of Thrones, it's my favorite show ever. Now, say what you will about the finale. I know the finale wasn't the best. But the show as a whole, you cannot take away all those years from the show.
No.
That is some of the best storytelling I've ever, not even just on TV, just in general, that I've ever seen. And you take the showrunners, the co-creators, the writers of that show, and be like, here's the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
Do what you wish.
How compelling that idea was to see these guys who created one of the coolest shows to ever hit television, and to then hand them the Star Wars universe and say, hey, create something totally new and fresh and different. Man, that was just so compelling and such a cool concept. It was kind of like when Guillermo del Toro was supposed to direct the Hobbit films.
Yes.
Right? And it was just like, oh, that's such a cool idea.
Or even the Haunted Mansion. Remember when he was attached to that? That was like, yeah.
And you hear this stuff and it's like, man, that would bring such a fresh, different approach to it. And you could, to extract something new from this universe that we all love. And now it's like, okay, well, is that going to then just revert to, just kind of someone that falls in line with what they've already been doing, and it's going to be kind of the same thing?
What makes it so sad is because it was rumored to be Old Republic, and if you know anything about the Old Republic, it basically is a Star Wars version of Game of Thrones.
That's where it's at for me. Past the Skywalker saga. Yeah, past the Skywalker saga, Old Republic.
Could you imagine them doing a movie and introducing characters like Darth Revan and stuff like that?
Darth Malgus.
Ugh. Yeah, now I'm just gonna be mad because we're never gonna get it.
Because the reality is, if they were gonna do it, if Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, and Lucasfilm were gonna do it, they're still gonna do it. And I guess that's what bums me out,
because it's not gonna. It might. Well, you can't say it's not gonna, but it might not be as good.
Because if they do it with somebody else, and it's good, but you're always gonna wonder what it could have been.
They just give it to JJ again. Hey JJ, come back. Come back.
Well, now he's over.
You're at Warner Brothers, but come back.
That ain't happening. I'm excited that he's over at Warner Brothers, because I'm really curious to see what he's going to do over there.
Justice League.
Yeah, I said if he gets his hand, if they give him DC, that could be a lot of fun.
We're gonna have to talk about that. That's another good 15-20 minute rant.
Because you could go both ways. You could go both ways a little bit, because he is very popcorn. He's very commercial.
But
he's a very smart, creative mind.
He is.
So but that's a much bigger topic.
People are saying he's what? Our Spielberg, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go that far.
I mean, I'm not saying he is, but he's kind of. I mean, he's like buddies with. Spielberg.
In terms of popcorn films, he's definitely up there in some of the biggest. Ever.
Him and like Matt Reeves, I feel like, are the two best blockbuster directors right now.
Right. Matt Reeves he's still got quite a bit to prove, I think.
Dude, but he's
the Planet of the Apes films
so good.
Were brilliant.
What did he do before Planet of the Apes? He did there was another one that I know. I was like, that one.
Now you made me forget.
I put you on the spot.
Yeah, man, now you made me forget what he did.
Point is, He's a fantastic director.
He is. He's
and,
a brilliant filmmaker.
I'm very happy to, very excited to see what he's going to do with the Batman. So
yes, I mean all the moves that they've made so far, as far as casting and all that kind of stuff.
that's actually what we were going to talk about last week, but we ran.
Oh
out
yeah,
of,
we didn't get that.
We ran out of time.
Yeah.
Speaking of. Look at that segue. Speaking of Matt Reeves directing the Batman, we've got some casting news, which is a little bit old as of this video. It's a few weeks old now.
Yeah, we definitely can't call it casting news.
Yeah, it's not new, but we haven't talked about it.
Yeah, we have.
And it's Batman, and we'll talk about it. So obviously, Robert Pattinson is Bruce Wayne / Batman, but we got some villain news as far as who's been cast as Catwoman and who's been cast as the Riddler. Although the Riddler isn't officially confirmed yet, apparently. So Paul Dano is rumored to be playing the Riddler. If you guys have seen There Will Be Blood, he's amazing. He's the priest in it.
Actor.
And so just his look.
Incredible
I'm like, I could
talent,
totally see him playing Edward Nygma. I can totally see it.
I had a favorite, but he's tied up in the MCU. Paul Bettany.
Oh, that would have been good too.
I have wanted
That
Paul
would've been
Bettany to play the
But
role of Edward Nygma for years. I've wanted to see
I would
him
not be mad
play
about that.
role. But Paul Dano is a pretty
I think that's
darn
pretty.
good
Yeah,
pick.
yeah. And then as
Same first name, so it's got to count for something.
And then Catwoman is going to be Zoe
Zoe
Kravitz, which is Lenny Kravitz's daughter. A lot of you may know her from the Fantastic Beasts franchise.
Yes.
So I like
She's
her
been in a lot.
She has been in a lot.
She's been popping up everywhere. Her and Tessa Thompson.
Yeah, they're like in everything.
Yeah, it seems like they're popping up everywhere. But I really like Zoe Kravitz.
So do I.
I think that she's just got such a unique presence.
She does.
On
She's got a really
screen.
cool look, too.
Yeah, very
I
cool
think
look.
she will definitely be able to pull off those Catwoman vibes.
Yeah.
Being like, especially if they play it. Apparently, Matt Reeves is going to go very detective. So in his
great.
movie, he's going to be loosely based off of The Long Halloween. So we're going to get that, that Catwoman who's obviously like, a cat burglar, but still have those really comic book supernatural-esque elements where it's not everything has to be so based in realism like Nolan's Catwoman. So I'm very excited to see it. And obviously she's no stranger to that, type of movies and stuff. Obviously Fantastic Beasts, she played a wizard and stuff. So I'm very, very, I think it's shaping up. The movie's shaping up. You got Matt Reeves directing, Robert Pattinson as Batman, apparently Paul Dano as a Riddler, and Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman so far.
And every one of those casting choices, you have a dark element.
Yes, 100%.
All of those people are capable of bringing a very dark presence to the story, which it starts to already kind of shape a tone, which just is really good. I cannot wait for that one.
Yeah, I know a lot. Well, not everyone, but
Young Batman. Come on, man.
There's a group of people that are like, but another Batman film? How many Batman films do we
Yes,
need?
another Batman.
Yeah, that's like me. I'm like, yes, 100%. Especially one like this, where like we've never got one that's purely going to be based around Batman's the world's greatest detective.
Yeah.
Yet, out of all the movies he's gotten, there hasn't been a movie that's focused on one of his greatest traits, being the world's greatest detective.
Right.
So going back to the rumor mill again, it's going to be apparently it's going to be loosely based off of Long Halloween, and Batman's going to be going to each of his rogues looking for clues to find, the murder or whatever the mystery is going to be for the movie.
I can only hope that is true.
It's going to be very noir. It's a younger Batman. I want it. And if it's a trilogy, apparently Matt Reeves has got ideas for 3 movies. So if it does well, which it's Batman, it's going to make like $1 billion, if not close to it.
Shoot.
So
we've been hearing for a long while that J.J. Abrams has been wanting to do a Superman film.
Yes.
So then him and Matt Reeves are really good friends.
Yeah.
So that automatically makes you go, oh, I wonder if they'll do a Superman that ties in.
Did you hear this? Michael Giacchino is officially scoring the Batman.
That's official?
That is official.
He hinted at that.
He did hint at that. And now it's but I mean, it's not surprising at all. He scores all of Matt Reeves' movies.
Yeah.
So it's like not really like a shocker, but it's awesome that it's official. And it's like, because Michael Giacchino, he's scored Incredibles, Spider-Man films.
An
and all
unbelievable amount of films at this point.
One of the greatest composers in Hollywood
Mission
right now.
Impossible.
Yeah. Point is, I'm so curious to see what he does with the Batman theme, because he's a big nerd himself.
Oh yeah,
he's a very big comic book fan and nerd. So
when you spoke to him, he even vocalized.
Yeah, that. I did. I got to speak to him on the red carpet for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I believe.
Yep.
And I asked him about it.
He was working on Spider-Man at the time.
He was working on Spider-Man at the time, and knowing that he's friends with Matt Reeves, I was like, "Would you ever do a Batman film?" And he was very casual about it, but he's like, "You know what I would like to?" His answer was, "You know what I'd like to do? A Batman versus Spider-Man film." He goes, "How cool would that be?" But it was his way of like not answering.
Such a great answer.
Because he might have known even back then, because these stuff is planned way in advance. But point is, he loves to reinvent current existing themes for stuff like that. Like he invented the classic Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like he did his own take on
and
that.
it was great.
So what if he did like his own take on freaking Elfman's Batman theme?
Ooh.
I know, right?
I just want that. I just wanted some sort of new take on that open. Remember the open for the original Batman and the sequel, Batman Returns.
Yeah.
There was that 3D passing through the symbol.
But I want it. We got hints of it. In the Justice League movie, we got hints of all those old classic themes, but I want to see what good old Michael Giacchino is going to do.
I have full confidence in him. He's a fantastic composer.
Yeah, I'm very excited. But wrapping up, we got one bit of news left to talk about, and that is back to the CW. Somehow we're back at the CW. We talked about it last week, and still
full circle.
There were still have more CW news. There's just so much. So I guess with all the changes and mix-ups that's going to be happening after the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover event, we already know Arrow's on its last season. It's rumored that Flash is going to be killed off. So things are being shaken up, or shaken up.
Yeah.
Shaken.
And as I said last week,
I'm just gonna keep saying it. Maybe it'll be right.
As I said last week, I think they'd be smart to at least set up Flash's end in the Infinite Crisis.
I mean, no, it would be smart, but I'd be kind of
smart.
But anyway, they have announced that they are currently developing a brand new series, and that's going to be a series around Superman called Superman and Lois, with the Superman and Lois from the Arrowverse reprising their roles as Superman and Lois.
CW's version of Lois and Clark.
Oh, I love that show as a kid, dude.
Did you?
Me and my mom would watch that every week religiously.
Really?
It's Superman. And
I mean, I watched a little bit of my sister was obsessed with that show.
Dean Cain?
Yeah, because
he was
Dean
like the heartthrob.
Yeah, she was in love with Dean Cain. And so that kind of like took the edge off of it for me.
Dude, I love
she was just fawning over Dean Cain the whole time.
Put that towel around my neck with the little paper clip or whatever the tie to run around flying. Ooh, it was my jam. It's actually on the DC Universe streaming app right now. And I was doing laundry the other day, had it on in the background. I was like, childhood. But
what is who played Lois? It was
I don't know her name. I know Dean
what's her
Cain
name?
because he also was the host for Ripley's Believe It or Not, which I was also a fan of that show.
Yeah, he like thinking back at it, he's like that was a unique choice for Superman.
It was, but I mean, he's one of. You think he's gonna do a cameo in the Crisis on Infinite Earths? A Dean Cain cameo would be the jam.
No way.
Yes.
They've already got somebody.
I don't care. I'll take them all.
Cameo.
I'll take them all.
I'd be surprised if they did that.
Crisis on Infinite Earths, Tim. Infinite. Keyword.
Well, Dean Cain is somewhere right now with his phone waiting for the call.
But anyway, we're gonna get a brand new Superman and Lois show, and I'm in. I'll definitely give it a try. I actually don't mind. I believe his name is Tyler Hoechlin. Tyler Hoechlin is who plays Superman currently in the CW verse, and I like him. It's
not bad.
He's not Henry Cavill by any means. I love me some Henry Cavill. Like he's like him and Christopher Reeves will always be like the two Supermen, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see where they go with it. It's Superman. I'm a big fan of Superman, so I will definitely give it at least 3 episodes.
You know how I feel about CW shows. It's not really my cup of tea.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like okay, cool. for those of you that are fans of those series. That's awesome.
I will say,
I'll probably check out the first episode or two, and
I will say I'm only watching Flash right now.
I'm not amped about it.
Right, I'm only watching Flash right now, and obviously I watch all the crossovers. So I've fallen off of the CW stuff. I've kind of gotten tired of it.
You mentioned that last week.
I did, but I have to give Superman and Lois a try.
Superman. I mean, you have to give anything a try.
Right.
There's a lot of people that put a lot of hard work into these shows, whether it's a film or it's a television show or a comic book. So you always want to be fair to the creators that are trying to serve the fan base.
Mm-hmm.
So you give it a shot and see how it goes, and if it's not your cup of tea, you move on. You move on.
You watch all the other millions of other content.
Yeah, there's just so much, and there's only going to be more coming
for sure. But with that said, I guess that brings our news to an end.
Yeah, I did. How was your Halloween, by the way?
Halloween, it was pretty good. We went trick or treating, and it was cold.
Well, you went trick or treating a couple times, didn't you?
I did. So I have a 2-year-old, as a lot of you may know, and I guess now they do these things where they do a lot of events before Halloween for like the little ones. So they had 2 different. They had one at my local zoo in Dallas, and then they had one in a city near me. So basically, all the storefronts would like sit
trunk
outside,
or
treat, stuff like that, and it's really cute. And they have like music and like pumpkin painting and stuff like that. And she thought it was the best thing in the world. Like
She's
no more joy was brought to this child. I don't remember the last time she smiled that much. She's like, wait. I say because she says twick a tweet because she's like 2, so she's she says like little kid.
Could
she
you
is.
do that one more time?
Twick a tweet. But like the fact that she would hand her bucket out and then she would get lollipops and candy, she's like, oh, "Thank you," and it was like the cutest thing
Like
ever.
she thought it was magic.
Yeah,
Magic exists.
So this will be, or that was her third. So Halloween was actually her 3rd time trick or treating.
That's fantastic.
And again, she's 2, so she can't like eat a lot of like the gummy stuff or like.
So that's a gift for you.
Yeah, it's for mommy and daddy.
Yeah,
so she's getting candy.
It's
from
a
mommy and daddy.
win-win.
Yeah.
I just can't believe that we're already in November too.
Yeah.
Like it's just man.
Soon some fried turkey.
So crazy.
Then Christmas, and then we're in the new year.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable how quickly is it. And we're actually getting ready. We're gearing up. We've got a bunch of episodes that we're working on.
Yes.
To get ready for the holidays because we take our couple of weeks. We every
do.
year. Or at least we try.
we try.
We do our best.
Everyone needs a rest.
Yeah.
At
the end of the year, we'd like to spend a couple of weeks with family and stuff like that. So we got a lot of stuff coming. We'll keep pumping this stuff out for you guys. Make sure you guys have content over the holidays.
Although there might not be a podcast the week of Christmas, but I feel like that's just right.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
If there's not, we'll tell you we love you and happy holidays in advance.
As Scrooge would say, be back all the earlier.
Yeah.
But with that said, guys, remember to follow us obviously here, but then we have a Variant the Podcast as a YouTube channel where this podcast is going to live on in coming weeks.
Yep.
Remember, it's not going to stay on here permanently, only for this first several episodes or so, then over there. And then you can follow us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, and all that good stuff.
So give us a subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified whenever you have a new episode. And other than that, we'll see you guys next time.
We talk about all things comics.